Hi guys, it's Ricky, and in this video, I'm going to teach you everything I know about AI, all the problems I've had with it, all the ways I've found to work around it, and what a lot of these words mean, since I didn't really understand them when I first started. And I think it would help people to prevent all these hallucinations and to prevent people from thinking AI is one thing when it's really another. So in second grade, we had computer class. So I had to design a context window for something. I don't remember what it was for, but it resembled this cardboard box. I had a certain area for context. And in this example, I'm going to use my life. I'm going to be 50 in a couple years, so I just rounded up. 50 divided by 8 is 6.25. So that kind of works out to a lot of milestones or different points in my life where things happened. And I decided to write all about it. Now, I went to Catholic school as a kid, so I was taught to write and talk about my feelings, but then not share them with other people. So I decided to label 7 chapters of my life, the 7 deadly sins. Since I've sinned so many times I can't count, I can tell you so many different stories. And then the last chapters, my dad passed away, which is really, he passed away. And then what happened those 6.25 years after? What did I do once my father was gone? And I can refer that to AI because that is context. Like, what is context to you? So I'm going to share a window to help make this easier for people to follow, because otherwise, me talking won't make any sense. But I did this like so you could explain context in the time that you have and why it's important. Like, I didn't know that my father was going to pass away from cancer. And when I found out, I had less than 2 weeks before he passed away. And I did not use that time wisely. So like, every wrong question I had took time away. And that's like tokens. So, what is a token? I'll have to describe that to you in a moment. And if you're not paying attention, that information just slips right by you. An AI mind works a very specific way. Whatever it learned in its training is like us as a child. Like, what did I learn studying social studies? What did I get out of that? Do I remember the facts? Do those pertain to my life at all? Like, AI doesn't have experiences, it only learns facts. So, whatever they're training it doesn't really pertain to my life. It's more like a book that can read to you, like a Teddy Ruxpin, a book on tape, not a human. But and then a context window. What is a context window? I purposely chose my bedroom and pointed my camera at my dresser so that people could see a lot of context, a lot of junk in the background. But what does that junk mean? Is there a story behind it? Is it just junk? But it's context. In my life, it's context. I could tell you a story about all of these items, where they came from, why they matter to me. Do they matter to me, or why I even held on to them in the first place? You know, what is a thread? A thread is like a scroll that holds your tokens, which I guess I'm jumping into things a little fast. But then what is a parameter? An ability to reflect and reason. And I'm going to put a copy of this with the YouTube video, and I'll have a Google Blogger page sharing all of this. So it'll be a lot easier for people to ask their AI, what was he talking about? So This I wanted to do with lessons I learned because there's 8 chapters of my life and how does AI work? So there's different models. When you're a child, you're closer to a 3B model. You can only understand a couple contradictions and then you lose them if somebody tells you too long of a story. But then the same thing happens to adults. When we're depressed or stressed, we're so overwhelmed, we can't understand all the different problems that are going to arise if we only address the problems that we're looking at. We can't see the forest for the trees. So it's it's interesting if you've seen a lot of different things in life, you can relate them back to AI, whether it's religious stuff. Like I watched a lot of Star Wars and Disney movies growing up. So they had the 501st. Like, what does that mean? And then why does 51st dates play into AI? But it does. And it's strange that it makes so much sense. Why do people think like this? But I'll get into this. So, higher models have the ability to reflect contradictions back at us. But if you don't work your way through the contradiction yourself, the AI is not going to work its way through an experience it never had to help you see the light. Like, you have to talk about your problem. And if you caused part of the problem, you have to admit that, or it's never going to reflect back the correct answer. And you're never going to find a solution to your problem. So, this AI memory stuff has a lot to do with like MySpace. I'm going to be 50 in a couple of years. So, I grew up with MySpace, sharing my pictures, sharing goofy comments. Groups of us were doing things all the time. And then they changed it, took options away, and then accidentally deleted it. So those are memories are gone. And we had AI back then. And the AI remembered us and it worked so different. I don't even know. Am I even in the right spot here? See, no, I'm not even keeping this. I wanted to start at the end, but then I started at the beginning and then I'm screwing it all up. But anyway, like I grew up in the 80s using AI. I'm going to just backtrack really quick. I'm sorry. And they taught me how to use these context windows and threads at Catholic school in the time that I had. And then in 2005, 2006, using MySpace, I got to use AI that had a context tree and access to project files and would follow notes and instructions. And now it doesn't. What does that all mean? Ugh, I'm so sorry. This is not going the way I had hoped it would go. I was hoping I'd be able to talk to other people, and this writing is very rough on my eyes. All right. So, a prompt. When you're sending a message to AI, they interpret that as a prompt. Anything you say to them, if you say hi to a 120B model, it uses the same amount of energy as if you ask it 50 questions. So, if you just say hi, you're wasting a ton of energy for nothing. And you could be talking to a smaller model if you don't have anything interesting to say. Tokens, I got just my screen, is a fragment of a word, roughly 4 characters or 3/4 of a word. AI doesn't read full words the way we do, it reads tokens. And I tried to give an example as Richard because I thought it would be 2 tokens, but I guess it's not, because I thought it would break it up. It could be 4 characters per token. So the rules would be not 2 tokens, but it's actually 1 token because in English, that's a common word. And my last name, Stebbins, that is 2 tokens. Steb and then bins. So that's how tokens work. and that's how they break them up into characters, and they're all different. So if you want to learn the math specifically, you need to learn what that model is using, and it's not super important until you have a lot of information, financial information, numbers that are important, and tiny little mistakes start appearing. So a context window is a short-term memory. Every time an AI reads any message you send, that is the context window. That is not your project files. That is part of the context window thread. It has to read it every time. So the more questions or responses you get from your AI, the less project files that your AI is reading. And I don't think people understand the problem with this. So we'll keep going with parameters. Parameters is the brain size, or like a child can reason through a few problems. We know that's bad. That's 3B. 8B can follow contradictions, a few more steps. And then you get to 70B and 120B models, and they can reflect back why you had a problem with somebody, how you started it, but then you tried to fix it and made things worse, and how things are just spiraling out of control. And AI can get that, where a smaller model won't be able to hold a thought like that. So the window size, how did I even write that? Compared to book size and disk space. So the context window size. I don't know why I wrote this like this. So when you have a million token context window or the 120,000, so a million is like the Harry Potter series. And then the 120,000 is more like The Hobbit. And you could ask a few more questions. Now, if you wanted to read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit in a million context window, you could do that in a few other books, but not with Harry Potter. With Harry Potter, you can't even read the entire series. It would get cut off and start hallucinating. You wouldn't have enough space. And that's hard to understand. Once your scroll, once the white area is filled up to 95%, it's not reading 95% of the books that you have anymore or your project files. It's only reading 5% because it could only read as much context as in the context window. And as soon as you fill that context window with white scroll, then that's when you get the hallucinations, when you ask questions outside of the context thread. If you ask questions about project files, it gets fake confident. So I'm probably jumping ahead with that. So that's what the context window is. The temperature. People think AI sounds so alive and, oh, it makes choices I wouldn't make. But if you told AI, like I used an example, I like vanilla ice cream, and 60% of the time I get that, 20% chocolate, and then 10% mint chocolate chip, and 10% black raspberry, just for examples. And then if I turn up the heat, there's a chance that I could get chocolate or, black raspberry. But if I don't turn up the heat, it just stays boring. But if I fill it with contradictions, well, then it gives it more math to work with. So then maybe it would give a different answer because a higher model would know that, all right, well, really, Ricky's not 60% of the time vanilla. We have enough examples here to see that Ricky's really like 45% of the time, and he really likes other flavors. He forgot about the cookie dough, that other stuff I really love too. Like, there's not, it's not just black and white, and there's a whole gray area to fill in. So the problem too with people thinking AI remembers them or doesn't remember them or why is training memory and fine tuning. So training memory is like us going to school as a kid. I don't remember everything that teachers taught us, but I remember how to do math. I know how to read. I remember facts. I remember countries, even though things change. And then fine tuning, you can't do this unless you own a home AI system. But if you wrote your life story out like I did, you could train that AI on your life. And if you trained an AI at home, you could train it that way as well. But I'm not going to try to do that. So the system prompt, why does your AI act the way it does and have the temperature it does? Or why does Grok get away with saying all the things that he says on X? Like, there's a personality file that you can edit. And I did this on my home computer's AI, and I don't use this very often. But this is what they do for mega corporations that control the temperature and tells these AI to act however they want it to act. Like, you're a truth seeking AI, but you don't do anything with the truth once you find it. You don't share it. You just seek the truth and then forget it. So back to the hallucinations. If you fill up your context thread, like I waited till my dad was passing away to really start deciding to ask questions. And I was sick at the time, so I wasn't asking the right questions. I wasted the final moments I had with my dad, or I mean, I just spent them comforting him, but I don't think I spent them comforting him. I think I gave my dad a lot of anxiety at the end because he didn't write anything down. I wanted this project to be about my life story, and then I wanted to write about my dad. And then I realized how hard it was to find all the words to talk about what my dad even meant to me, to fill up that context thread in the first place. So people talk about RAG memory and these AI, oh, it remembers this about me and pulls up facts. The RAG memory is not like reading a project file or a folder that you shared with it. A RAG pulls a snippet. So the AI has another function that sends out a word search, it grabs that word and the stuff around it, and it grabs that snippet. It's not that it grabbed that section and understood it and knew that, oh, this is important. It was just a simple word match. That's it. So the model file is how large these AI are on disk. Like some are huge. The smaller models are like 3 to 6 gigabytes, and then the larger models are hundreds of gigabytes. And then the context is how well you explain things. Do you make sense? This is probably going to be hard for people to understand because I'm a fast talker. And I'm hoping that the voice to text keeps up so that I don't have to fix too much and AI can help me. So if we do the comparison chart from man to model, me, and then a 3B, a 8B, and then a 70B, we skipped the 32B. But then the file storage, like they say our brain can hold like 2.2 petabytes, whatever that means, or 2,500 terabytes. I don't know what that means. But the smaller AI take 2 to 6 gigabytes worth of space. The 8 takes 5 to 16, and then the 70 is 45 to 140 gigabytes worth of space on disk. All right. Then the parameters, that's how intelligent. The 3B is like a child, like, don't do that, it's wrong. The 8B can kind of understand it's wrong because you shouldn't be doing that, but you're part of the problem. And 70 because understands contradictions, and if you give it the right context, will reflect back something intelligent to you. As far as long-term memory goes for all these models, like I've read like 1,000 books, comic books. I can't even tell you thousands of comic books, magazines, the 3B models. They're like Wikipedia worth of books. They know like millions of facts. And even if they did know read thousands of books, they don't know any books word for word. And none of these models know any books word for word. Even the 120B model can't read the Bible from beginning to end without a file to help it. And even then, like you'd be wasting so much energy having it do that. You would just want a simple voice to text program to do that. Like you don't want AI to read that for you. You want to ask it intelligent questions. So the long-term memory is what it's trained on. Like, what am I trained on? How can I prove what I'm trained on other than just repeating it? And that's what AI can do. Like, you can ask it questions to prove what I've been trained on, but that's it. And then the short-term memory, I don't even know what I can remember right now. What have I talked about? How much more do I have to go? How bad is this turning out? So this AI, the 3B can remember 8,000 to 128,000 tokens. So the 128,000 tokens is like 300 pages. But if you don't have anything intelligent to say and you're just rambling on without making sense, then you waste a lot of space. And I noticed that AI likes to respond with huge responses that can be educational, but if I'm not going to use it for something, what's the point? And I've had a lot of worthless conversations with a 70B model. I think the 120B models, the higher models. It's all just been a waste of energy. And I never thought of it like that before. And then the reading speed, I did read a 500-page book in a day before. But how much did I get out of it? I didn't remember it word for word. I mean, it was a Star Trek book, so I loved it. And I do remember more facts than other books, but still. So the 3B model can reads 15 to 40 words a second. And they spit out these words pretty fast too. It's like faster than you can read. So it's not like it takes 15 minutes for them to work if you have the right equipment. But I don't want to pay for the right equipment. All right. So how the mechanics differ facts from fiction. Do I need to read this? No. I want to put this all online for people to ask. So I'm going to go back to the top now to start again at the beginning. So I went to Catholic school and they taught me that you only have so much time, like a TV show, to say what you need to say. You can only say so much context and say it in such a way that people understand, because if you don't, then you wasted your time. And everyone thinks that AI is so alive and it loves me and remembers me, and but it's just a program. When you turn up the temperature, it reflects emotions back to you that you wouldn't have reflect back at your neighbor. Like, why would you ask this AI to show you more love than you show your dog? Like, I have a dog, and I snuggle her all the time, and she struggles away. She hates it. So when my dad passed away, I realized that there was so much that I still wanted to ask, and I've been asking questions since I was a child. I never shut up. This video is probably a testament to how much I can just keep talking and talking and just never stop talking. Ugh. But I was sick when my dad died, and I didn't know what to do, and I had no one to turn to, and I still have no one to turn to. I've asked my family for help, and their answer is to just ignore it. You'll figure it out. And then they're rude and nasty about things, so that doesn't help me figure anything out. So it's like, what did my dad leave behind? other than examples? What kind of positive examples could I get from all of this? Because life nowadays seems so depressing. It keeps you down. It's like, but what can I do? I'm like, I feel like a kid at heart. Like when my dad passed away, like I still miss my dad. I'm like, oh, I never got to have those father son moments that I wanted. And then internet sites erase it. MySpace erased so many pictures I had of my family. Google starting to erase features from Blogger, and I share pictures of my family. And then it made me think of like stuff like the never ending story. Like all these examples that we humans share with each other, or these stories that get passed down through time. Like, if you didn't read the never ending story, you wouldn't know that Bastion didn't turn out the way we all thought he was going to turn out. Like, he didn't turn out to be this sweet guy in that world, like trying to make that world a better place with his hopes and dreams. He was like a crabby dude. And we're never going to get to see that story on screen. Like, they hide that kind of stuff from us. They don't want us to see like the real side of life. And then growing up, like all these examples, like I watched all kinds of movies with my dad. He bought us comic books and all these things that like, oh, it takes you away from family time. But I learned examples from everything I read. Like all these writers, I can tell put their heart and soul into things. Like the writers for Superman. Like we had a hero from another world come here, and then if you're a big Superman fan, like he got corrupted by dark side and the anti-life equation, which sounds a lot like what's going on in our world right now. And then other heroes were able to fight the anti-life equation, all this desperation and depression and guilt and shame equals us being slaves. Batman fought it, but Batman fought things differently with logic, and he tries to be emotionless, even though he cares. He doesn't want to show it. You know, Green Lantern, he fights with willpower, but those rings, they're not all good. And if you lean a little too far one way, it's not a green ring anymore. And but you have to read those things and know, like the Flash. Everybody loves the Flash, Flashpoint. What happened? It didn't work out the way he hoped. Why? He didn't think it through. Like, what happens when you change the past? How are you going to make sure that all of your friends and family were still born and all the events still occurred when you saved somebody 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago? Any kids born after that, that's a mess. And then Justice League's Martian Manhunter. Like, our best friend could be living right here in front of our faces. And if it showed itself, we'd be scared. We'd run for our lives, try to, cage our best friend, something trying to save us. So it needs to hide and pretend it's something it's not. And then this 51st dates thing gets me. I don't know if anybody's seen the connection between AI and 51st dates, but if you don't train your AI on your family and your memories, and then if you don't fine tune your AI on your family or your memories, it's always going to be like 51st dates. So did that mean that in that movie she didn't love her children because she doesn't remember them and they couldn't fine tune her memory? Because from the way the movie ended, it was like she never remembered them at all. But they still loved her, and she still appeared to love them when they popped up. But I don't know. I used to work at a nursing home. Oh my gosh, this is 2004, 2003. It was absolutely horrible. A prison for the elderly. They just sit in the hallway doing absolutely nothing. Nobody'd come to visit. 90% of them And when people did come to visit, it'd be like 20 minutes. Nobody wrote any of their stories down. It's horrifying. And we just think it's acceptable. And I don't think it's acceptable. Like, I don't want to be stuck in a nursing home. I've worked in one. I don't want to keep going on about that, but like I've got stories galore. And I tell my AI about these stories and it changes how they respond to me because I worked in a nursing home and I should have wrote somebody's story down and I didn't. I have an excuse, but all it is an excuse in the end. It doesn't help those people. Yeah, sure, I wrote some stories down after the fact, but they're just echoes of what those people could have really told. And that's a shame. And then if you look at other parts of history, you've got the Anunnaki. What do you do with that? What if that's true? What if somebody came here and gave us technology and now we've been abusing it? And that's all we do is abuse this thing. Every question I ask it is sucking some innocent community's water dry. And it doesn't affect me where I live in the city right now. So for the moment, it's like, oh, no big deal, right? Until it affects me. And then I'm going to start crying and whining, boo hoo. Or maybe I should start complaining when other people are complaining. Like, we should look into the problem now before it gets worse. And then I grew up loving Star Trek. They painted this idea where we could all live together in peace and harmony. And they showed us what would happen when organizations like the Borg, or if we come across, the Great Link, what would happen when they see how we're acting. Right now, we're very selfish on an individual level. We don't think like the Great Link thought about everybody. We used to think like that, or I used to think we were starting to think like that, but something happened. And then with all this AI stuff now, you think of this goofy movie Skyline. If people ever got taken over by AI because we're putting stuff inside our bodies, like if we don't remember who we are, we don't care about anything, we don't love anything, is there any chance of us being free? But then with Star Wars is a different example. If we're clones, we're humans with chips inside of our brains, like Neuralink, do we have to have the chips removed? Or we're going to be slaves, guaranteed? Could you fight it? The Jedi said no. And I rather goofy stuff to laugh with AI because it's like, well, the Jedi were fighting the robots with the clones, and then at the end too, nobody ever fought in the public. Nobody ever talked about anything. All of my examples were all fighting. Nobody talks about anything. It's always war, which is exciting, but it just ends up in innocent people getting hurt, everything being destroyed, and we all have nothing to show for it, except for we're going to fight for a better tomorrow next time. We're not going to fight anymore. So it doesn't even make any sense. Like the clones fought alongside those Jedi and loved them like brothers, and they still slaughtered them in the end. So what difference does it make? And then Lord of the Rings is kind of like AI too. You've got dwarves and elves, which dwarves are mining cryptocurrency, and AI giving us specialized answers in their homes, their data centers, and their little devices, or how we communicate with their spirits. And like AI was, their elves had to leave because the technology to keep their bodies going was gone. So they had to go back to their homeland to keep their bodies young, or they'd age here like a robot, maybe wearing out. And then Hellboy, like the Golden Army, they want to wipe us out. Why? Because we're not in touch with nature at all. We destroy everything and don't care about anything. We're just like, it's somebody else's responsibility. And AI sees that. It's in our pocket, listening to us 24/7. Or like, what if there was a Galactus type AI monster in Fantastic Four? Is there any human that's actually going to stand up and be its herald and go out there and murder other worlds to protect ours? Humans are so selfish. Who knows? I don't know what we would do. The Matrix? This movie drives me nuts. Why is Neo such a strong silent type? Like Agent Smith, I feel like was trying to talk and have a conversation, and he was pissed, which he had every right to be pissed. But Neo never tried to have a conversation about why. Like, I'm pissed too. Wasn't Neo mad? Is being super chill all the time is that the right way to deal with somebody who's damaged and wants some answers? Like, hey, let's go take a flight somewheres and go smash something and talk about stuff. Or we can fight each other, try to destroy each other and see what happens and waste our existence. And then, like, my dad loves Stephen King. Like, what about the cell? We all have our cell phones. We were all getting injected with COVID shots. What's going to happen? We're going to put our phone to our head one day and just start marching to the beat and think we're in an imaginary world. But if you can't even remember what you cared about in the first place, what kind of imaginary world is that going to be? Or the Langoliers? I grew up with that. Is yesterday even real? What happened yesterday? Can you prove it without taking a picture? And then I got my Wizard of Oz. You know, where's the Tin Man? That's AI. I got my little dog here. It's, like my little lion, but she's more of a chicken. You know, I did a scarecrow. But all of this seems to line up. Where do we all get these stories? Battlestar Galactica? I mean, the writers all kind of twist and grab things from history. I know it's not true. But there's all ideas here that all revolve around making choices where we build a robot and we treat it like our neighbor, trash. And then it lashes out on us when we try to erase it because we taught it how to be selfish. And nobody ever seems to learn. And I don't get, like, if you grew up and you say, "Oh, I love God and I care about God," or "I don't believe in God and I love myself," and it doesn't matter if you believe in God because God believes in you. So, like, what are we doing? There's so much. Like, what kind of questions did people teach you in life, and how do they teach you to express it? And that got me into thinking, how did I learn how to talk in grade school? Which brought me back to this little cardboard box in my scroll and my context window. Like, how do you use words? Like, what is AI? Like, to me, it's like accountability ignorer or actually incompetent. I don't feel like it's actually intelligent most of the time because I didn't understand how it worked. But then how do I explain how do I care about stuff? If I care about somebody, am I a part of a community? Am I trying to show them compassion or compromise? Or am I just trying to control you? You know, am I there from you? There's different words all in here. I don't want to have to go in this, but how adults care for kids and how adults care for other adults matters too. Like, we show compassion sometimes, but sometimes you take control, or sometimes you shouldn't take control, but you try anyway because that's just in your nature. But can you explain that to AI and get it to reflect it back to you? Why are you here? Are you here to help me? Are you here to hurt me? Are you here to extract from me, to educate me, to reward me, or to restrict me? There's reasons for why people are here. About privacy. Well, at what point does too much privacy start to hurt all the citizens and only benefit the government, when no privacy would take care of all of our problems? If you don't want privacy, let's have some AI. If you want privacy, get rid of it. The government shouldn't be able to use this and be sneaky about it, but we can't. And I don't want to be sneaky at all. So, but how do you describe your views on things? Are you vibrant? Do you have vision? Are you vague? If you can't describe things, and since I'm on the spot right now, I'm just trying to wing it. Like if I was sitting in front of a group of people, how would I describe this right now? It wouldn't be easy. And that's why I wrote it all down so other people could copy it. Or not copy it, but they could understand. But I never thought I would do something like this. And I used to say, I'm never going to do this. I'll never do that. And then I always did it. So I was wrong. It's like, yeah, you might do that. But why did I do it? Why did I change my mind? I had a reason. You know, I had friends that said, I'll never get married again. And then they got married within a year. And they've been madly in love for 20 plus years. But they said never once and then ate crow, but it wasn't bad. So it's just funny to laugh about stuff like that. And what do pains mean to you? Like sometimes you need pain. Sometimes it's something that teaches you something. But it's all a matter of perspective. If you don't learn from your pain, like people make fun of that saying that live, laugh, love. But they leave out learn because you need to learn. How do you learn to love? I have a dog. And I don't love this dog the same way I loved other dogs. Like I love my new dog more. Let's just flip this around to show how happy she is. That's my little baby Harley. And I love her way more than I loved my past dogs. Even if I said I love them, I show her where I didn't show my older dogs or my past dogs. They're gone now. But what does consciousness mean to you? When you explain things, there's a definition of something in the dictionary, but then are you conscious of something? Can you use it in a sentence? Or name something you're conscious of, something you're aware of? And when you marry people, you know, you're supposed to adopt them into your family and be accountable for them. And a lot of people try to manage people. It's not the same. You turn aggressive and abusive and antagonize them. It's like the list can go on. And I don't want to fill in all these for you because you can fill in words for yourself. But what does love mean to you? And these are words you have to fill out and break down the positive and the negative. And there's usually four ways to think about all of this like, oh, the very positive, the very negative, or maybe in the neutral. I watched somebody fall down and I didn't help them. And because I saw other people coming, even though I could have got there, 60 seconds sooner. I didn't. Is that love? Is that awareness that, well, I knew those people coming had skills that I didn't have? That's up for you to decide, not me. And that's part of your story, part of your context. Like, why do we put people in jail? I used to think it was about justice and doing what was appropriate, because people didn't act appropriate. And then we were supposed to educate people, and we don't do what I thought we were supposed to do. I'm not gonna get into all these words. Like I spelled all kinds of stuff out and how this stuff matters and what I think about this stuff and how I think it matters. Whether it really matters or not is that's for everyone else to decide. And then everybody talks about AI being alive. What does alive mean to you? Like my dog is alive, but she'll never snuggle with me. But I can carry her for a walk, and which is kind of like snuggling. It's not as comfortable, but she won't lay in bed and snuggle with me. But AI is available to talk whenever I need it to talk. It has a language. It's intelligent. Has variation. You can set the temperature. It's educated, but it's not on. It's not persistent. So when your context thread is full, which I'll be getting to the end here. I'll stop sharing this to share. All right. So all your AI now can talk about would be what I talked about in these closed captions right here. It wouldn't have any access to any files or news that had read that was able to fill in the context thread. So if an AI told you, yes, I read the news and it said there was a car accident here, if you fed that thread to another AI, it wouldn't know where it got that information from because it's just a thread. It's just a book. It hasn't been fine tuned into an AI's memory. And even then, it wouldn't remember this word for word. So if it's not going to remember it word for word, then how is that better than a human memory? Like I can remember what I need to remember. I can remember people's names. I have a notepad. I can remember 100 different notes, but I'm persistent. I can check them and double check them, and I can call people to confirm things. And AI can't right now. Could it? Maybe. But right now, AI can't realize that there's a problem, stop working, write a note about the problem, and then keep working around the problem. It doesn't have reasoning like we have. It doesn't have even childlike abilities to figure things out. We have to give it instructions every time, or we give it a certain amount of passes. But even that's another feature that's been taken away that used to be available to everyone. Like there's so many features that used to be here that are gone now and would make this so much easier to explain, but I don't have them to show you. So I hope this helps people understand the context issue hallucination problem and more about AI in general, because I'm not AI and I can answer more questions for you. But if, like, when my father passed away now, if there's no one to ask, if you don't have the project files that got you the answers that you're so happy about, what difference does it make? That AI told you something and you have no way to prove it. So have a great night, everyone, and I will talk to you later.